Hi there. So it's that time of the month when we talk about the UK House Price Index. And the key thing here is in Scotland, property prices rose by 1%. What I'm going to do is discuss all of how that impacts yourself. And we're going to look at average house prices. We're going to review property types and how they're selling. And we're going to look at how things have increased or decreased perhaps in your location as well. So it really helps you understand what's happening with your property values. So I'm just going to go through some of the key details for you. So this report is produced by the Office of National Statistics, and it really gives us great insight as to what's happening in the property market and how that's been impacted in the last 12 months. This report is up to June of 25. There is a bit of a lag there because we have to wait for the land registry information. So I'm going to cover it off with you. So average house prices in Scotland increased by 5.9% in the 12 months to June of 2025. And the average house price is £192,000. That's a fantastic number, isn't it? And very affordable as well in this location. This was up from 4.1%, which was the revised estimate 12 months ago into May. So we've definitely seen that jump there as well, which is fantastic. So looking at that, the average house price on an annual basis across the 12 months up to the end of June has increased by 3.7%. On a non-seasonally adjusted basis, the average house price has increased by 2.2. So what that effectively means is that properties, once they go to land registry, because there is a lag in the time that we get that information, they do what we call an adjustment, and that's non-seasonally adjusted. So it kind of corrects that number for you. Still great improvements though. And in June of 25, compared with an increase of 0.4% in the same period 12 months ago. So again, year on year, it's seeing that increase, which is fantastic. And on a seasonally adjusted basis, the average house price in Scotland increased by 1%, which is the number I gave earlier, between May of 25 and June of 25. So fantastic to see that number increasing just in that short period of time, isn't it? In Scotland, what is the type of property that is selling the best? So semi-detached houses, still the highest annual percentage increase change of all property types, and they have increased by 7.8% in that 12-month window up until June of 2025. And the average property value of a semi-detached property is £218,000. So that's against the average properties as a whole across Scotland, 192. Your semi-detached is actually above that at 218. You just get so much for your money with a semi-detached property as well, don't you? You get the space that you're looking for, you get the garden area that you're looking for, you generally always have area to the side as well for your drive. So it just gives you so much more for your pounds, doesn't it? It gives you a great family home, and they're normally in really good locations as well. And they're built really around families, aren't they? So you're near schooling, you're near amenities. So it just offers you so much more, doesn't it? Flats and masonettes, however, they had the lowest annual percentage increase. They increased by 3.9% in the 12 months to May, and the average masonette and flat is valued at 136,000. But again, still affordable living, isn't it? If we look at the Fife prices, for instance, generally how we look at it, it's kind of 6 times your wage would be your affordability, and the average salary in Fife at the moment is £32,000. So that's well affordable at that price point, isn't it? Of the price point of 136,000. So if you were 6 times your salary at 30, that's 180,000 effectively your average person can borrow. So definitely affordable living there as well, isn't there? But in Scotland, 27 of the 32 local authorities showed an increase in the average house prices in the last 12 months. So that's a really strong property market, which is fantastic, and it benefits everyone, doesn't it? Because it's not just the property market, it's the whole supply chain as well. So your home removers, your carpet fitters, your plumbers, your kitchen fitters, it really supports everything within the local community, doesn't it? The highest annual percentage change was in Perth and Kinross, where the average house price increased by 12.3% in the 12 months to June, and the average property in that location is £229,000. The lowest annual percentage change was in Moray, where the average house price decreased by 2.8% in the 12 months to June, and the average property value there is £189,000. But again, it's a smaller location, so you're looking at certain multiples here as well in regards to the actual transactions. So really good indicators to the strength of the market. We're going to drill into that as well. However, if you want to kind of go back and look at some of that detail, click on the link. You can read the post. It will take you 8 minutes maybe to read it. And there's a lot more detail in there than I share with you. I'm just sharing the key parts to it. So certainly something for you to look at. Be interesting to see what happens with base rates, won't it? So we're going to be seeing some changes on that. So the Monetary Policy Committee, they meet on the 18th of September, and they are going to be reviewing interest rates. No real indicator as to what they might do with that yet. Currently, they're sitting at 4%, so it reduced, as we know, in August. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there, because the interest rates really run hand in hand with inflation, and inflation jumped incredibly. It jumped to 3.8% in August from 3.4% in May. So that was quite a large impact. Generally, what they're trying to do is get inflation where it's sitting at about 2%. So we're almost at double that at the moment. So big impacts there in regards to how that may influence the decision makers in regards to what they will do with interest rates. Things that actually work with inflation and what impacts the inflation is sharp rise in airfares. It was holiday season, wasn't it? So everyone was going on holiday. Same as it always happens. The supply prices get hiked. Petrol and fuel prices as well, they increased sharply. But actually the largest increase in prices was in food inflation. And that's really impacting all families, isn't it? It's hitting the pockets pretty hard, that inflation on food. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen there. So as I said, the Monetary Policy Committee, they meet on the 18th of September. So it'll be good to get a view of what they're going to be thinking there. And that will help drive the market further as well. So I'm going to look at just some of the headline stats for you, and I'll just share that here for you. So you can see here the headline stats for June 2025. The average price of property in Scotland is 192,000. The annual price change of a property in Scotland was 5.9%. The monthly price change of a property in Scotland was 2.2%. And the index figure for Scotland, January to the end of the current period, which was June 25, was 109.6%. So that's a real good improvement on property values as well, and it keeps the market very strong, doesn't it? Interesting stats to look at there. But then what we're going to look at is also areas, locations, so where you may be. So if we look at City of Dundee, for instance, the average property at the end of June was 144,000. The previous June, it was 136,000. So that's an increase of 6%. So good improvements in Dundee. Again, you're seeing that in the City of Edinburgh as well. So the average property at the end of June was 288,000. June of last year, it was 275, so an increase of 4.7%. If we look at Glasgow, for instance, very affordable in Glasgow, 187,000 is your average property value against June of last year at 175,000. That's a 7% increase. 7%. It's fantastic, isn't it? We're then going to jump on to East Lothians. East Lothians, the average property price there is 279,000. The previous June, it was 268,000. And that's an improvement of 4% as well. We then go to Fife. So Fife, the average property value in Fife at the moment is 165,000. The previous June, it was 163. So that's an improvement of 1.4%. We then go to, say, Perth and Kinross. They have seen an enormous jump, as I mentioned earlier. The average property there is 228,000 versus 203,000 the previous year. That's a 12.3% increase. 12.3%. So if you're fortunate enough to be in that location, you've certainly done a great job in regards to the value of your property, for sure. If we look at the types of property, as I mentioned earlier on, so your average prices for June 25 versus June 24, your detached property, your average detached property is 349,000. That's a large sum for a detached property in June, and a big increase in values as well compared to the previous June of 24, where it was 326,000. So that jumped by 6.8%. But as I mentioned earlier on, your semi-detached is the one that performed best in regards to the actual percentage improvement year on year. So your current semi-detached property is valued at 217,000. against the previous June at 201, just under 202 actually. That was a 7.8% improvement. Fantastic improvement on that property value types. And you get so much for your money, don't you, with those types of properties I mentioned earlier. Your terraced property currently sitting at 177,000 against June of last year at 165,000. That's an improvement of 7.1%. Your flats and masonettes as well, again, strong growth there. In June of 25, it was just under 137,000. The previous June, it was 131, so improvement of 3.9%. So all in all, across all property types, the average property price in Scotland is 191,927 versus 181,000 the previous June. So just shy of 6% improvement on all property values across the board. That's a really strong position for the market, isn't it? So great to see that all areas have actually seen a bit of an improvement, which is fab. If we then look at the transactions, what we're doing by looking at the transactions as well, because it's great that your property values are higher, but actually that doesn't demonstrate the strength of the market. The market is demonstrated by the transactions. Transactions are keys handed over, money in the bank, physically moved homes. And those are the things that we really want to see the improvement on. And if we look at them, again, if we pick up some of those areas, the transactions in most areas have improved. So if we look at Dundee, they are sitting at 209 versus 191 transactions in that timescale. So again, a strong performance there. If we look at the city of Glasgow, 843 transactions versus 828. If we pick out East Dunbartonshire, 150 versus 127 transactions. East Lothian, 189 transactions versus 164. Fife, 502 versus 555, so slightly less than Fife actually. So that's an interesting one. Again, it doesn't make a trend. 500 transactions is generally what we would see across that period. If we then look at, say, Perth and Kinross, we mentioned them earlier on, 234 versus 210. So again, strong growth there as well. And if we look at the volumes over the last kind of 5 years to show how they're progressing, if we go back to April 21, when it all went a little bit crazy, didn't it? Sales volumes in Scotland then were 7,216. April 22, it jumped to 8,700. That was a real peak for 22, and that's when property values did change greatly then as well. If we go to the April 23, it's then just over the 7,000. April 24, we're sitting at just under 8,000, and then April 25, 7,600. So pretty steady in the mid sevens, other than that 1 year when it was different. So pretty stable and steady market we're seeing there over the last 5 years, which is great. So the transactions are there, the volumes are there, but also property values are going up as well. So it's a real good combination at the moment. The transactions, if we look at new builds, because new builds are always really difficult to kind of understand fully, because not all of the information is shared online. If you would go to Rightmove, for instance, you don't see the stats for new builds. You'll see what's selling, and maybe owner-occupiers moving into new build properties, you'll see they're sold, but you won't see the purchase. So that's always an interesting one. So this gives us really good information that's not available to us otherwise. So the transactions, when we look at new builds versus existing pre-sold properties, this one is for April. So again, that's because we've got that lag with the land registry. So your new build average property at the end of April 25 was £330,000 for a new build property. That is a monthly change of 7.7% in a month, and an annual change of 16.3%. So definitely new build properties, more expensive to build. You've got all the ecological part of it as well, but a new build property averaging at £330,000. If we then jump to existing resold properties, so someone's lived in it, they've resold it, the average property there in April 25 was 175,138. So that was a monthly change of 1.9% and an annual change of 2.9%. That's a massive difference, isn't it, when you look at the pre-solds, 2.9% improvement versus the new builds, 16.3%. Vastly different to build a new build property now, isn't it? Incredible. You definitely get more for your money on your pre-solds and your existings. What we're then going to look at is actually the buyer status. So who is purchasing them and with what? So by that, what I mean is, are they first-time buyers? Are they former owners? It's really good to get an idea of what they are spending. And what we're seeing for first-time buyers, the average price that they are spending is £158,188. So that's a monthly improvement of 2.2% and an annual change of 5.7%. It's interesting we're seeing that monthly improvement at 2.2% now that the interest rates are changing and they're coming lower. And there's some good deals out there as well. Certainly worthwhile speaking to a mortgage broker, because your first-time buyers are now actively in the market and spending £158,000 on average. So that's really good to see that, because they're the starting point of any chain. So it's fantastic to show that that's going to then keep things moving along. Your former owner occupiers on average are spending £238,000 on a property. That's a monthly change of 2.2% and an annual change of 6.1%. So again, big improvements, not much difference in actual annual changes. You know, your first time buyer 5.7, your former owner occupier 6.1, so pretty steady there as well, isn't it? Where are they getting the money from? That's what we like to find out as well. So are they spending cash? And if they are spending cash, on average, how much are they spending? And on average, if they have a mortgage, what are they spending? And I'll be very surprised that this doesn't tie in with what the first time buyers are doing, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to be mortgage people, aren't they? So funding wise, your average price in June of 25, person spending cash on a property, the average cash spend was 177,141. And absolutely, we are seeing that decreasing month on month. The last time I did the update, it was sitting at 180,000. The previous time it was 185, and the previous time it was 188. We're now down to cash buyers spending on average in Scotland 177,000. So it's a monthly change of 2.1% and an annual change of 5.1%. We then jump to mortgage, and people buying on a mortgage on average are spending just shy of 200,000, 199,668. That monthly change of 2.3%, but an annual change of 6.4%, which actually rings in with your first-time buyers. They were 5.7% annual change. And so you're definitely seeing that reflecting through in what they're paying for the properties as well, and how much they're borrowing on a mortgage. So really some interesting information there. I think the key thing now, what I'm looking forward to doing in next month's show, is understanding where we are in regards to interest rates. So as I said earlier on, the Bank of England are meeting on the 18th of September. So it'll be interesting to see if they do drop below 4% or hold it. There's no real feeling out there. Personally, I think they'll hold it, but there's no real indicator out there to what they will do. But certainly the economy needs to keep moving. Inflation keeps going up, which is not actually what they want. That's a negative. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens there. As I said earlier on, if you would like more information on this, because all of these graphs are in the post, you can click on the link, you get all the information that you require. If you've got any questions, absolutely feel free to post them to us. We will absolutely come back to you. But also, actually, if you are one of the people that have experienced some of this information, or you've utilised it, or it's impacted your property values, again, reach out. We're happy to hear your stories. Totally comfortable sharing them as well. It's great if we can share this information, isn't it? Until next time, that's it from me. It's Perrie at Fife Properties TV. Take care. Bye-bye.